For years, we've thought of Crimea as Russia's impenetrable fortress in the south, an unsinkable aircraft carrier, really, defended by some of the most advanced air defenses on the planet. But just recently, the lights in that fortress, well, they began to flicker out. This is the story of the blinding of Jinkoy.
Our story starts here, in Jinkoy. It's a critical logistics and aviation hub for Russia in northern Crimea. You know, if you look at a map, it's the gateway. Any major push from mainland Ukraine into the peninsula has to go through here. So for years, Russia has just layered this place with sensors and missile batteries, turning it into a fortress. But just last night, a series of precision strikes suddenly made that fortress very, very vulnerable. So what happened? Well, the Ukrainian General Staff has now confirmed what satellites probably saw in real time, a devastatingly accurate attack. But here's what's so interesting. Look at the targets. This wasn't a strike on troop barracks or a fuel depot. No. Ukraine hunted and destroyed two very specific pieces of equipment, a P-18 Terek early warning radar and an RSP-6M2 airfield control system. Think about that. They didn't target the fortress's sword. They went for its eyes. And in modern warfare, if you can't see, you can't fight. Blindness is a death sentence.
And you're going to want to stay till the end because I'm going to reveal the shocking theory for what this strike is really for. Now let's get back to our breakdown.
Okay, so to really understand just how brilliant this operation was, we first have to understand the hardware. What exactly are these two systems and why was taking them out so important? So on one hand, you've got the P-18 Terek. It's a long-range surveillance radar. Its whole job is to stare deep into enemy territory and just scream incoming when it spots a threat. Then you have the RSP-6M2, a precision approach radar. Its job is totally different, much more local. It's all about guiding Russian aircraft home safely in the dark or in a storm. So one is the watchman on the wall, the other is the lighthouse keeper. And Ukraine just took out both.
Let's start with the P-18. I mean, look at it. You'd be forgiven for thinking it's an antique. It's an old Soviet-era design, usually mounted on the back of a truck, and frankly, it looks like a bunch of metal racks. But this piece of old-school tech has a very modern and very dangerous superpower. Which, of course, brings us to the obvious question. In an age of hypersonic missiles and cyber warfare, why on earth is Russia relying on a radar that was designed when the Beatles were still together? The answer, amazingly enough, is just physics. You see, modern stealth aircraft are designed to be invisible to modern, high-frequency radars. It's like trying to catch a specific fish with a net that has holes that are too big. It just slips right through. But the P-18, it's different. It's a VHF radar, which means it uses very long radio waves. It's like a giant, clumsy fishing net. It doesn't care about the fancy stealth coding. It catches the aircraft by its actual physical shape, the wings, the tail fin. It might not give you a perfect high-definition picture, but it absolutely tells the operator, hey, something big is out there. And this is exactly why it was so important at Jinkoy. This specific P-18 was the tripwire for the entire region. It was the main sensor feeding data to the much more advanced S-300 and S-400 air defense batteries. So without that P-18's early warning, those multi-billion-dollar missile systems are basically half-deaf. Their reaction time gets slashed from minutes to just a few seconds. Ukraine didn't just break a piece of old equipment, they tore a massive hole in the entire air defense network. All right, now let's move to the second target, because this is where the strategy gets even more interesting. The RSP-6M2. This is a completely different kind of beast. It's not looking hundreds of kilometers away for threats. It is laser-focused on the final, critical moments of a flight, the landing. You know, the easiest way to think about it is this. It's the air traffic controller's eyes during a storm. When a pilot is coming back to base in heavy fog or blinding rain or just the dead of night, this system gives them the exact glide slope and direction they need to touch down safely. It's literally the difference between a routine landing and a disaster.
So what happens when you destroy it? Well, you create a logistical nightmare. Jinkoy is a major hub for Russia's Mi-28 and K-52 attack helicopters. These are the workhorses they use to strike Ukrainian forces at the front. Without this landing system, every single flight becomes more dangerous. It forces Russia into this terrible choice. Either you risk your multi-million-dollar helicopters and your experienced pilots by trying to land visually in bad weather, or you have to relocate the entire fleet to other bases further away. That means longer flight times, burning more fuel, and less time actually over the battlefield. So in one move, Ukraine has crippled the operational tempo of a key Russian airbase without even firing a single anti-aircraft missile. But this strike, it was even more sophisticated than just hitting hardware. The evidence is now pointing to the fact that a key part of this whole operation was focused on taking out not just the system, but the human brain that was running it. Because right alongside the confirmation of destroyed radars came another confirmation, the elimination of Lieutenant Colonel Hassan Tomgoyev. And make no mistake, this was no accident. This was the most surgical part of the entire strike. This isn't just some random officer. Tungoyev was a graduate of Russia's top air defense academy. He was a veteran of the war in Syria, and most importantly, he was the commander of an S-400 Triumph air defense battalion, one of Russia's crown jewels. He was the guy connecting all the dots. The radar signals, the interceptor missiles, the command network. He was one of the very few people with the kind of experience needed to counter the complex threats Ukraine is throwing at them. And this gets to the most chilling part of this whole thing. Look, when you lose a radar, you can drive a new one out of a warehouse. It's expensive, sure, but it's replaceable. But when you lose a commander with this level of expertise, you lose something that takes 20 years to replace. You lose instinct, you lose experience, you lose leadership. In the fifth year of this war, Ukraine is now hunting the experts, and that is a resource Russia simply cannot get back quickly. Okay, so we have a blinded early warning system, a crippled airbase, and a dead expert commander. All the pieces are on the board now. And that brings us to the grand plan, the really shocking theory that military analysts are now piecing together. What is this all for? Why hit these specific targets in this specific place at this specific time? You have to understand, Ukraine rarely wastes its high-precision weapons on small tactical gains. This was what they call a shaping operation. But what exactly was it shaping? The logic is actually terrifyingly simple when you break it down. Step 1, you take out the long-range P-18 radar, the one that sees threats coming from far away. Step 2, you disrupt the local airbase by hitting the RSP-6M2, which prevents attack helicopters from scrambling to intercept a new threat. Step 3, the result of those first two steps is a temporary but critical blind spot in Russia's air defense coverage, which leads to the final, crucial step. You clear a path for a major follow-up strike. And here it is. Here's the theory. The goal of the Zhenskoy strike wasn't just to punch a hole in the fortress's defenses. It was to create a temporary, invisible corridor through one of the most heavily defended areas on Earth. A corridor perfectly sized for low-flying cruise missiles like the British Storm Shadow or the American ATACMS. And what's at the end of that corridor? The crown jewels of Russia's occupation. We're talking about the remnants of the Black Sea Fleet sitting in port at Sevastopol, or the single most strategic and symbolic target in this entire war, the Kerch Bridge. The blinding of Zhenskoy, it may not have been the main event at all. It may have just been the opening act for a truly spectacular finale. Now, to really grasp how significant this is, we need to zoom out for a second and look at the broader air war and where things stand in the fifth year of this conflict. Because this isn't just one strike. It's another chapter in a long, grinding campaign of attrition. You know, before this war, Russia's integrated air defense system was talked about in almost mythical terms. People said it was the best in the world, an impenetrable bubble that nobody could get through. But over the last 5 years, Ukraine has systematically and painstakingly taken that reputation apart, piece by piece. Today, that bubble isn't just being tested, it's popping. And part of the strategy here comes down to pure, simple economics. Let's just look at the numbers. A modern advanced Russian radar system, like the ones being targeted, can cost upwards of $100 million. That is a staggering amount of money for a single piece of equipment just sitting in a field. Now, look at the cost of the weapon likely used to destroy it. A long-range Ukrainian strike drone can cost as little as $50,000. The difference in those numbers is almost hard to wrap your head around. I mean, that is an absolutely astronomical difference. Ukraine is basically trading pickup trucks for supercars, and they're winning. This is a war of economic attrition, and that is a ratio that even the massive Russian state cannot sustain forever. Every single time one of these $100 million systems gets taken out by a cheap drone, it's a huge strategic victory for Ukraine's long-term war effort. So where does that leave us? What's the final verdict? What does the blinding of Zhenskoy really tell us about the state of play in Crimea and the future of this war? This operation was nothing short of a declaration of intent. It proves Ukraine can reach out and surgically remove the most critical pieces of Russia's defense network deep behind enemy lines. It totally complicates them air defenses, it grounds their helicopter fleet, it paves the way for future strikes, and by taking out commanders like Tumgoyev, it creates a kind of operational paralysis. The message to every Russian officer in Crimea is now crystal clear. You are not safe.
So is Crimea still a fortress? Yes. But it's a fortress whose walls are cracking and whose sentries can no longer see the horizon.
And this leaves us with one final big question. Was the blinding of Jankoy the opening shot of the long-awaited big push for Crimea? Or was it just another brutally effective day of shaping operations in a war that continues to evolve in some pretty shocking ways? The situation is developing incredibly fast, and you can be sure we'll be here to break it all down. So subscribe for the latest updates and be sure to watch the explainer coming up on your screen. Thanks for watching.